technique called French seams. Now, French seams I would use if I've got a particularly delicate fabric and I don't want to sort of see any overlocking, or I obviously don't want to see the raw edge of that fabric. So if I'm working with a chiffon or an organza, sometimes even a netting, I would use these quite a lot. So I would occasionally use them on soft silks and things too. It's a really nice polished way to finish off a seam. So normally, you know how we have our technique where we put our seams right sides together? Could somebody see if there's a pen or something up there? There's a pen in there, Chelsea. I'm going to pretend that this fabric has a right side and a wrong side. So I'm just going to do little lines, and let's pretend that this is a nice decoration on my fabric, and this is the right side of my fabric. So normally I would put my right sides together, but on a French seam I'm actually going to start by putting my wrong sides together and my right sides facing outwards. So it's very counterintuitive. If you're used to doing seams a lot, you go, no, this feels very wrong, but it is right in the end. I'm then going to sew a basic straight seam. So check that everything's on the right seam, and I'll spin my pedal around because it's going backwards at the moment. So I'm just going to start by doing a straight seam. Now I'm going to sew this on a very small seam allowance. I'm actually using, sometimes I like to use the edge of my presser foot as my guideline, but this time I'm actually using, if you can see into the presser foot, there's like that little line across there. That's what I'm actually using as my guide. So I'm going to sew along here. Always back stitching. Just going to sew for a little bit. I don't need to do a huge sample here. I'll pretend that that's all I need of this seam. I'm just going to chop off the fabric because I don't want to waste it. So at the moment I go, oh no, that's not right because I've got my seam on my right side and that's really ugly. I don't want that. Now what I would actually do though is I would give this a nice iron open. So I'd flatten it out, iron it really, really nicely down. And when I iron a seam, I make sure that I'm pulling that seam outwards so that I'm not getting a folded over bit of fabric in there. I'm actually getting the full edge of the seam coming out. I'm just kind of going to finger iron this one down like that. I'm then going to fold it back. Now I have right sides together, and I'm going to do my seam going down this way. So this time I want to use a bigger seam allowance than I had for the first time because I want to cover it up. Another way that people do this is they actually trim down the first seam that they sewed and then they do it again. But I prefer to not have to do extra cutting. So I just know to do my first one really small and then do my second one bigger than that first one. You can pin this, especially if you've got quite a slippery fabric that's falling all around. So now my seam is on the back of my fabric. The right side of my fabric looks like a nice normal seam, but that is my closed, that's my inside edge. So it's a really nice finish to have, especially if you've got a really soft fabric. So for your sample of this, you're going to do one on basic cotton, but then you're also, just to get the technique, but then you're also going to try one on some chiffon to see the difference that that makes. So we can stop that video there.